Anil Sharma, Chief Flight Attendant of IC814. Captain Sharma, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. I want to, of course, begin by asking you, what really can you or do you remember about the hijacking? Can you tell us about before the hijacking? Did you find something suspicious or was it a routine flight?
No, it was a routine flight. We were delayed significantly when we left from Delhi. I think it should be known that excepting me, the rest of the crew, all three members of the cockpit crew, and seven hostesses from Hyderabad base, they had started the day from Hyderabad. They had operated Hyderabad-Delhi flight, and they were supposed to do Kathmandu-Delhi, and then have a layover in Delhi. And the flight got delayed because there was a change of aircraft at Delhi for various operational reasons. So it was there was a lot of flurry of activity at Kathmandu airport because the captain said that the sunset time was approaching, and if I recall correctly, there were no night operations at that time. I mean, beyond that time. So a lot of rush. The guys who were cleaning were made to go through the motions very rapidly, and then the people started boarding, and we didn't find anything unusual in the list in the passengers who had boarded, and everything seemed normal. People got seated pretty fast, and we shut the doors and we started flying. The unusual activity began 40 minutes after we had got airborne from Kathmandu.
Okay. Mr. Sharma, you say unusual activity began 40 minutes after. What really were the first moves of the hijackers? And I'm sure you also perhaps remember what exactly were you doing at that moment?
I was coming out of the cockpit, ma'am, and as I said, the cockpit crew, the cabin crew, they had started the day from Hyderabad. It had been a long day already. I was the only one who joined from Delhi. And I thought, let me offer them a cup of tea or coffee before we touched down in Delhi. So I was coming out of the cockpit and everything seemed very cheerful. The captains were in a good mood. The flight engineer was joking with me. And I was coming up, when I came out, I found a guy standing. It's a short corridor between the cockpit door and the galley. And there were two toilets on either side of that point where I was positioned when I saw this guy wearing a mask. He had spectacles and he had a pistol in his hand. So he said कि हम तैयारा टेक ओवर कर रहे हैं, आप कोई होशियारी मत दिखाइएगा. So I tried. I felt that the game was already over as far as my role was concerned, in the sense that it was too late to inform the captain or do anything about the door, and because he virtually pushed me, and he also warned me कि हमारे आपसे कोई दुश्मनी नहीं है, आप भी कुछ चालाकी मत कीजिएगा, something like that. So I raised my hand to use the intercom, and then he said this. So after that, another guy appeared. This chap, the chief, went into the cockpit. Another guy appeared and he said, "Ab piche jaiye." So by the time I was leaving the J class and heading towards the economy class, the number of hijackers had grown to 3. One was in the cockpit, 2 were in the J class, and they started pushing people back. Hijack ho gaya, and sab piche jao. They started pulling the food trays from people, throwing them on the floor, and creating an atmosphere of horror. And when I went and sat in the first row of the economy class, I found 2 guys getting up from among the passengers. And soon they also had masks on their face. One of them was carrying a dagger. One of them was carrying a grenade and a revolver. So then, this is before we headed. They wanted to go to Lahore but
Yes.
The aircraft came back to Amritsar. This is what happened in the initial 1 hour or something after they took over the aircraft.
Mr. Sharma, the entire circumstances and situation really is unimaginable. But you're one of the people who've lived and survived now to tell the tale. But what really were the first thoughts then that came to your mind when you realized that the plane was hijacked?
Somehow one felt Indian Airlines aircraft, that airline, why should I say that? My airline enjoys the distinction of being the only airline which was targeted by hijackers 15 times before Kandahar. Some of them were farcical incidents and all that, but a hijack is a hijack till it gets resolved. And having known, and a lot of those hijacks took place from Delhi base, some from south like Bangalore, Cochin, and Trivandrum and places like that. And the first thought was that this will also get resolved in a few hours or maybe a couple of days at the most, because the longest hijack incident hijack featuring Indian Airlines aircraft had lasted was about a maximum of a day and a half. So we were thinking that I was thinking that this could possibly get resolved in a few hours. There'll be somebody from the government, taking actions. We didn't know that they were a set of fiercely indoctrinated hijackers who had come with a mission to do or die. In the later days, they also said कि हम तो मरने को तैयार हैं, आप अपना सोचिए, and those sort of things. So one was still hopeful that things would settle down after some time. But as the day progressed, or shall I say the evening progressed, we realized that they were far more murderous and ferocious than any other group or gang or bunch of terrorists who had targeted the Indian Airlines aircraft, because within a few hours we knew that two people had been stabbed. One of them unfortunately lost his life. The other guy was also in pain. So this was the way the scene was unfolding, and slowly it started to dawn on us that things were much worse than what we initially imagined them to be.
Mr. Sharma, in such a situation where, of course, you just said you realized that this is not something that's going to pass very quickly, you feel that the passengers are, of course, your responsibility, but at the same time, you're human at the end of the day. You want to ensure your own safety as well. How did you really, how does one react? How did you go about this in your own mind?
See, initially, this incident, after they had taken control, they wanted a PA system to address the passengers. They wanted to warn them not to do anything and follow their orders. So this chap, Bhola, he tried to address them using a PA system which I had given him, but it didn't work. So he threw it made it bang against the aircraft wall. Then we gave him, to try to soften his anger, his control his rage. We gave him a PA system, a handheld microphone. And so basically the intention was subconscious or conscious, really, hard to say that, to not enrage them any further, to make them feel that we are not going to risk anything, risk any damage to the aircraft or to anybody's lives by confronting them verbally or physically. Now, this was the initial reaction, and then slowly the interaction began over the next few days. They started becoming a little more friendly. They would call me Sharma Saab, and they were also, they didn't know the girls' names, nor did they try to find out, but they were quite respectful, and that this is not a human angle that I'm putting to it. It's just that it was part of the training because you don't want such people, who live by terror, don't want themselves to be distracted by any such thoughts or feelings. So this was the intention, and throughout this thing, we kept. The captain also called us and said, "Please cooperate with them." And I told him, I said, "We are already cooperating." Cooperating means you don't stand up or create conditions which would worsen the situation. That's what we did. That's what all the cabin crew members did.
Okay.
They knew the job. They knew how to deal with the situation like that. But some beyond that, things weren't under our control, right?
Mr. Sharma, we'd also like to understand, I mean, I just read out about some of the brutal attacks that took place. Ruben Katyal lost his life, and there was another major stabbing against Satnam Singh. What exactly do you remember when the hijackers started killing and stabbing some of the passengers? What sort of emotions then went through some of the crew members who became aware of those killings? Because like I said, some of the passengers at the back did not really know what was going on in the front.
See, actually speaking, until we reached Dubai, that Al Minhad airport, I did not know that two people had been assaulted, because I was in the cabin and made to sit along with the rest of the passengers. My junior colleague Satish and hostess named Rajni, they had attended to the wounded passengers. That time, between Lahore and Dubai, he was still, alive. And Satnam Singh also had been admitted to he had been bandaged. He was in great pain. And but when we reached Al Manhad, suddenly Burger came, and he normally used to. I mean, the rest of the days on board, we would hear him speak in Urdu, Hindi, whatever you call it, Hindustani language. But that time he came and gave very crisp, commands. Get up, bring your friend. Something like that. He told me to bring Satish along. So we went to the J class. We found a person lying on the seat. So this guy from the other aisle, he said he's dead. Lift him up. So we tried to lift him up. We couldn't. Then another, I think the chief came out of the cockpit. He said, "Iska belt bada hoga." So we unfastened the belt. He and I, Satish and I, carried him to the step ladder fixed on the first door of the aircraft, and we laid his body. And so that's when, and then Satnam Singh by then had been offloaded along with the rest of the people, a fair, let's say, large number of ladies and children. But I think if I recall correctly, 27 of them. So, but I had seen Satnam Singh wounded, and obviously it was giving a very frightening thought to me or to anybody who had seen it, because there was 8 other passengers also in front of whom they had assaulted these 2 people, stabbed them, and I'm sure they live to this day very scared and frightened because they have seen death at such close quarters.
Absolutely. At the same time, Mr. Sharma, what really then happened once you landed in Afghanistan, Kandahar, which became the final destination? Was there anybody who entered the flight, or what exactly the sights that you started seeing? Because we remember that the hijackers had shut all the windows at that point in time so that nobody could look in. But photographs were later released which showed that the Taliban had surrounded. Did you have any inkling of what was happening outside, and what exactly were you made to do once the hijacked plane was in the presence of the Taliban?
I don't know about others, but for quite some time, I was not aware that we had landed in Afghanistan.
Okay.
The first indication came because we were not allowed to talk, and before we got to Kandahar, they had made all 8 of us cabin crew members, that is, on row numbers 15 CDEF and 16 CDEF. And we were not allowed to mingle, but then they got hold of some tea and probably some biscuits. And some of the cutlery had markings of Aryan Afghan. That's how one got the feeling. Then we looked at each other, by then one was beginning to establish some sort of a connection with the passengers seated on either side, and they said, "Hey, to Afghanistan ka wo hai." And that's when it dawned on us because the window blinds had been lowered. We were not allowed to lift them up, and we didn't have any access. The J class was empty. Occasionally, a couple of my lady colleagues, Kalpana being one of them, and Kobita, they were allowed to come up to the forward galley, make some tea for the hijackers, and the captains and the commanders, the co-pilot and the flight agent are also been shifted to the economy class by then. So there were, of course, Afghani officials coming up and down, but later, I think a couple of days later, we got to know that the Emir, whatever you call it, of Afghanistan had paid a visit to Mullah Omar, but it wasn't confirmed. Nobody saw him, because we were told to sit quiet and not answer any questions raised by any Afghan official who came on board.
Okay, all right. Mr. Sharma, we'd also just like to understand, I mean, of course, there's a series that has now come out on Netflix called IC814, and there is some controversy around it. People have a problem with the fact that the code names of the hijackers, which are 2 Hindu names in it, have been used in the series. However, the makers have now said that they will rectify that error and they'll put out a disclaimer. There are also allegations that there have been attempts to humanize the terrorists. What is your take on all of this, sir?
Most certainly. I mean, no matter what one says or feels off the record, this is not something which can be included in, even if it's a drama or you say that it's a work of art. Frankly, I don't buy that kind of a nonsense. You can't say that is what work of art if art cannot. I mean, it means imposing one's own intent on other people, and then you say that if you don't like it, don't watch it or something. That's not the way to deal with. There is a certain boundary that every filmmaker must have. Because when you do this sort of a thing, when you take such liberty, it's going to affect some people. You may acquire a lot of money through people's viewership. You may say, "Oh, I succeeded in making such a hugely successful film or series." But the fact remains there's this element of conscience also which should be in play. There has to be an emotional component in your approach. You're not going to lose anything by being sensitive to this. For instance, in this series, they've shown, and I would love some of my colleagues on board that day, lady colleagues, I mean, the girls, to come up and say, it doesn't, sound utterly convincing if I say that, nothing of this kind happened. I want them to vehemently deny that this is pure absurdity, to show that the person had a soft corner. What crap is this?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not saying that there were moments when they tried to get very friendly. They would say कि अरे आप लोगों ने तो बड़ा काम कर दिया, ये बिल्कुल पहले जैसा कर दिया. When we cleaned up the aircraft, that is the galley and stuff like that, and or they would say कि like on the very last second last day when 30th को they've given that we'll shoot all of you dead now in the morning. And then this guy came to me, Burger, and said कि Sharma साहब मैं lunch आपके साथ खाऊंगा. So I told him, I said, on one hand you're saying that we'll kill you, and on the other कहता मेरी बात तो मानिए. But I can't sort of say, "Oh my God, Burger was such a friendly man, so
Right,
human."
absolutely,
And
yes.
that's a part of his mission, which he was assigned. There was nothing. I'm not going to meet Burger, and I don't think I would ever like to. And
Yes.
so saying things that oh, she had a soft corner or this thing, these are very, very avoidable, unfortunate inclusions into the script. So I really don't know. And Anubhav Sena is a very acclaimed writer. They'll say this guy is a loser if he's saying all. I mean, that's me. I'm saying all this, and who is he to comment? I'm such a brilliant filmmaker. So artistically gifted artistically. So, but
Right. Okay, Mr. Sharma, before we let you go, sir, one last question. If there was one thing that you wanted to tell, are you still with me?
I would say that we must continue to believe that India is on a way to becoming a country which will be taken seriously by the rest of the people for economic reasons, for political reasons, for our general contribution to world peace. And, a lot of Indians have gone to foreign countries, contributed to and furthering their economy. They've contributed to making those countries more vibrant through culture. And this is also the time that we must believe that we are a strong nation. It doesn't, no country is perfect. Every country, every region will have problems. But the way we continue to believe or are being made to believe by certain Western interests that, oh, we can do nothing right. All that we can do is bungle. And this is the impression being given in the film that the bureaucrats were a bunch of idiots who didn't know how to handle it. This is not true. You have to work in those circles to know how difficult their job is. And they're all committed people. They've given their entire life to the jobs they're doing. People in the forces, people in the police, people in the bureaucratic circles, doctors, lawyers, all we have a growing population which is full of competent people. And then you have guys who want to raise questions about this thing. I am not a pessimist like them, unfortunately. I believe, and now that I live outside India for a major part of the year, I know how seriously people are taking India. And if Indians don't take themselves seriously, how will the world do that? So it's for youngsters to believe. It's not that everyone has that seen struggle. You, as a news person, must have gone through
Yes.
period of struggle, but there's life ahead. If you feel optimistic, so one day you could be in a position you would have never dreamt of. So this is my message to people that be proud Indians, be big-hearted Indians, be peace-loving Indians, be somewhat forgiving Indians, but don't allow people to plant these kind of reprehensible ideas that we have no future as a nation. Our politics is bad, no doubt about it, but it hasn't stopped people from doing well. There's signs of prosperity. It's
Yes.
going to take time. It's only been 70 years, and no country transforms itself in a matter of few years. So I
Right.
am very positive in that sense. I believe that the younger generation also should be equally optimistic and continue to do their best. You win some, you lose some, but eventually that's the only thing which will give us peace of mind and happiness.
Mr. Anil Sharma, thank you so much, sir, for joining us on NewsX.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.